I stopped doing these 5 things after 65. That's when happiness began. I spent nearly 40 years trying to live a happy life until I finally stopped. Not stopped breathing, not stopped living, but stopped doing the things I thought were necessary for happiness. I used to believe that to feel fulfilled in old age, I had to stay sharp, stay social, be a role model for my grandkids, keep contributing, helping, sacrificing. And then one day, after turning 65, I sat alone in my living room in a quiet, comfortable home with everything I needed. Yet my heart felt heavy as stone. I had everything, but I felt nothing. Have you ever felt like that, waking up each morning without a sense of excitement? Going to bed at night, just relieved another day had passed? I began asking myself, have we gotten so used to always doing more that we've forgotten what truly makes us happy? Are we still living by some invisible list? How seniors should behave? What grandparents must do? And along the way, have we forgotten that old age is a life of its own, deserving to be lived fully in a way that we choose? I spent most of my life trying to add more effort, more roles, more responsibilities. But it wasn't until I stopped doing 5 things that life finally started to feel lighter, easier to breathe. And for the first time in years, I realized that happiness isn't some far-off goal. It's simply the feeling of being myself day by day. Today, I want to share the 5 things I stopped doing after turning 65. They may sound simple, but they might surprise you because they're deeply familiar. They weren't major mistakes, just small habits that quietly wore down my emotional well-being, always making me feel not enough, even when I was doing everything I could. And if you're in your 60s, 70s, or beyond, and you've ever felt like I did, like something's still missing, like your heart feels unsettled, maybe you'll find a part of the answer in this video. Not by adding more, but by daring to let go. And maybe that's exactly when you'll begin to feel truly happy. If anything I shared feels familiar to you, I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments. And if you'd like to walk this journey with me toward a lighter, clearer, and more joyful life, after 65, don't forget to subscribe to the channel. Part 1. I stopped trying to please everyone. I used to believe if someone wasn't happy with me, then I must have done something wrong. If my daughter called and I didn't answer right away, I'd feel guilty. If a neighbor invited me to dinner, I'd go even when I was exhausted, afraid they'd think I was being cold. Every holiday, I'd send cards to every single relative, even those I hadn't truly connected with in years. I lived as if I had signed an invisible contract. My job was to make everyone feel satisfied and cared for. But you know what? I was worn out. I still smiled, but inside, I was tired. I'd say, of course, while my heart quietly whispered, I really don't want to. Then, one evening, after a long dinner full of polite small talk and forced laughter, I came home, slipped off my shoes, sank into the chair, and cried. Not loudly, not dramatically, just quiet tears as if my body was finally trying to tell me something my mind had ignored for years. I had abandoned myself just to maintain a kind image in the eyes of others. At that moment, I wondered, would I be selfish if I started saying no? But then I came across a line in a small book at my local library. Every time you say yes to someone else, when your heart says no, you're betraying yourself. And I started to try, just little steps. One day, A friend invited me to a long group gathering. I gently replied, "Thank you for thinking of me, but today I need a bit of quiet time." No one got angry, no one cut me off, but for the first time in years, I felt peace, simply for listening to myself. I also began to reflect among all the people I tried to please, how many truly cared for the real me, and how many relationships existed just because I was the one always carrying the weight. I realized something important. Not everyone has to like me. What matters is that I get to live in alignment with who I truly am, so I can deeply connect with those who matter most. I started saying no more often, stopped playing every possible role. I no longer feel obligated to answer the phone right away. No longer force a smile when something upsets me. No longer feel guilty for spending time with myself. And the strange thing, I didn't lose anyone. In fact, the people who genuinely care about me started to understand me better, and I began to understand and love myself again. If you've spent most of your life trying to make others happy, please ask yourself, when was the last time you did something purely for you? If this resonates with you, leave a comment. I'd truly love to hear from you. And don't forget to subscribe, because in the next part, I'll share the second small thing I stopped doing after 65 and how it lifted a weight I didn't know I was carrying. Part 2, I stopped worrying about what others think. I used to sit on a park bench watching people in bright workout clothes laughing loudly doing yoga under the open sky, and I'd wish I could feel that free. But then I'd think, if I wore shorts, what would people say at this age? That's ridiculous. So I stayed quiet, shrank into the corner of the bench, tugged down my sleeves, adjusted my collar. I didn't realize it at the time, but day by day I was shrinking my life, just to fit into what I imagined others expected of me. I avoided wearing bright colors because I was afraid people would say I looked too flashy. I didn't post my travel photos online because I was afraid they'd think I was showing off. I didn't share how I truly felt because I was afraid they'd think I was weak. There was even a time when I was walking through my neighborhood and heard a young couple laughing behind me. I had no idea what they were laughing about, but in my head, a voice immediately whispered, "They're laughing at me. I must look silly, walking like that at my age." I carried that thought home, and for the rest of the afternoon, I kept replaying it. Did I really look strange? It took me a long time to finally understand the fear of what others think is one of the most persistent prisons we build for ourselves, and it's all in our minds. Because the truth is, most people are too busy thinking about themselves. They're not noticing the spots on my hands. They're not wondering why I'm walking alone. They're not counting my wrinkles. All those thoughts, they existed only in my head. So I started trying something new, just little things. One hot day, I put on those bright shorts I had folded away for years. I went to the park and no one stared. No one whispered. I walked freely. And for the first time, I didn't feel like I was pretending to be someone who fit the mold. I also began speaking more honestly in conversations. If I felt tired, I said, "I'm not feeling my best today." If I was happy, I laughed loudly. I didn't worry about being too much for my age. And if someone judged me, I smiled quietly. Because now I know they're not the ones living my life, I am. And the moment I stopped caring so much about outside opinions, I started seeing what was good inside me. I stopped measuring my worth through the approval of others. I no longer needed anyone's permission to live according to my age, my interests, or my softness. Are you holding yourself back just because you're wondering, what will people say? If so, try one small thing tomorrow. Wear something you once loved but felt too self-conscious to put on. Or say what you really think instead of what others expect. And if you manage to do it, even just once, share it with me in the comments below. And don't forget to subscribe, because in the next part, I'll tell you how my home and my mind became twice as light. All because I stopped holding on to one harmless habit. Part 3. I stopped holding on to things for later. I used to believe that keeping everything was a way to not forget the life I once had. A chipped ceramic mug, that was the one my wife always used. An old jacket, my son gave it to me when he graduated. A stack of newspapers. There were some great articles. I might need to read them again someday. A closet full of bed sheets, towels, plastic containers, tangled cords, empty boxes. Each item had a reason to stay, and I couldn't bear to let go of any of it. I called it being careful, but really, I was living surrounded by the past, and there was something I hadn't realized until much later. I was giving too much of my living space and my mental space to things I no longer used. One day, I was searching for a new phone charger in my drawer. It took me over 20 minutes digging through cords labeled "just in case, for later you never know." I wasn't frustrated by the wasted time. What hit me was this quiet realization I was being held back by my own past. I was living in a house full of memories, but missing the lightness of the present. I used to save everything thinking it was frugal living, but what I couldn't save was peace of mind. I kept so many things, yet somehow it felt like I wasn't truly holding on to anything meaningful. Then one day, a friend told me something after cleaning out her mother's house. My mom saved everything, but what I remember her by isn't any of those things. It's the quiet afternoons we sat together. That sentence made me stop cold. I looked around my home. I could live without these things, but every day I kept carrying their invisible weight. Every time I opened a drawer, I saw something that reminded me of the past, or of some maybe that never came. They didn't bring me joy. They only filled me with more longing and quiet anxiety. And then I did something I'd never had the courage to do before I started letting go. I began with the smallest drawer. I kept only what I had actually used in the past 6 months. I asked myself, if I went on a 1-week trip, would I need this? If the answer was no, I closed the drawer and either donated it, gifted it, threw it away, or said goodbye. And each time I let go of something, I didn't feel loss. I felt like I was gaining back a little more space and a little more breath. No more stress from clutter, no more guilt for keeping things I never use. Instead, I made room for things that actually brought me joy. A vase of fresh flowers on the dining table, a sunny reading chair by the window, a small wardrobe filled only with clothes I truly love and wear often. If you're holding on to a lot of things for later, try asking, am I keeping this because I need it, or because I'm afraid to let it go? And if there's something you haven't touched in a year, maybe its time in your life is already complete. Try decluttering just one small drawer this week. And if it makes you feel lighter, leave a comment and let me know. And don't forget to subscribe, because in the next part, I'll share what brought me the deepest peace of all. Not from doing more, but from finally stopping the habit of blaming myself. Part 4. I stopped blaming myself for the past. There were mistakes I carried with me for over 30 years. No one ever brought them up, but I never forgot. Like the time I got angry at my son because he didn't choose the college I wanted for him. Or how I missed the only vacation with my wife because I was too busy with work. Or the words I carelessly said that hurt my mother even though she never told me. I used to think that carrying those memories was how I would avoid repeating them. I believed that silently blaming myself every day was my way of making it right. But after turning 65, I realized blaming myself didn't make me a better person. It just made me more exhausted. One day, in a quiet conversation with an old friend, he told me I apologized to my daughter after 15 years. And the surprising thing was, she barely even remembered what happened. I sat there in silence because I knew that feeling. The people we fear won't forgive us. Many of them have moved on long ago. Only we remain stuck. It's a very real feeling. You're having dinner alone. The food is good. The room is quiet. And suddenly, a memory cuts through like a cold knife. Your heart feels heavy, and that same old voice returns, "If only I had done things differently." I began to wonder, maybe I'm not tired because of aging, but because I keep reliving things I can no longer change. So I tried something new. I wrote down the things that still made me feel guilty. Nothing long or poetic, just, "I once did this. I wish I hadn't, but I can't go back and undo it." And then I added one final line under each mistake. "I forgive myself because I know I didn't know any better at the time." I folded the paper, put it in a small box, not to keep, but to release. And strangely, the feeling of lightness came slowly, but truly. I stopped thinking about those mistakes every day because I had faced them and let them go. Forgiving yourself doesn't mean denying responsibility. It means acknowledging that you did the best you could with the understanding and the circumstances you had at the time. And if today I can do better, that is the most sincere apology of all. If you're still carrying guilt from something in the past, try writing it down. You don't need to share it. You don't need to explain. Just look at it clearly and tell yourself, "I deserve forgiveness just like anyone else." If you've ever felt that way, or if you're in the process of forgiving yourself, leave a comment below. I'd love to hear from you. And don't forget to subscribe, because in the next part, I'll share the moment when my life shifted from gray to vibrant again, when I stopped believing it was too late for change. Part 5, I stopped believing it's too late. I used to believe that turning 65 was the end of the line, the end of dreaming, of exploring, of starting anything new. Whenever someone said, "It's never too late," I'd just smile politely and think, "That's something young people say. It's different for me. I was retired. My back wasn't as straight as it used to be. My close friends had grown fewer with time." And I told myself, well, the exciting part of life is over. Then one day at a college reunion, I met an old friend, Fred. Fred had just signed up for piano lessons at age 72. I asked him, "Isn't it a bit late to start?" He smiled and said, "I'm not learning to perform. I just want to hear myself play one song I love before I go." That night, I couldn't sleep. Something in me shifted. I began to realize no one was stopping me from starting something new, except me. We tell ourselves things like, "I'm too old to travel alone. I shouldn't try to learn something new. I shouldn't change my routines. I shouldn't fall in love, dream again, or try something unfamiliar. But the truth is, we shouldn't live the rest of our lives just trying to stay safe. I didn't sign up for piano classes, but I started small. I learned how to use a smartphone. I joined a casual painting group at the local community center. I wrote the first lines of the memoir I had dreamed of writing for years. No one cheered me on. No one discouraged me either. It was just me, a 70-year-old man, feeling for the first time in years like I was truly living, not just letting time pass by. Then one day, I got a letter from someone who had read my blog. It was a 68-year-old woman who wrote, "Thank you. I just decided to learn how to drive again after 40 years. Because if you dared to begin, maybe I can too." That's when I understood something powerful. When you stop believing it's too late, you open a door for yourself, and sometimes you light the way for someone else too. Every new day isn't the leftover of your life. It's a blank page, and you're still holding the pen. If there's something you've always wanted to do, but thought it's too late, I hope you'll reconsider. Write it down, name it. Then ask yourself, is tomorrow really too late to take just one step? If you've ever started something new after 60, or you're thinking about it, I'd love to hear your story in the comments. And if this message brought you some peace or encouragement, hit the follow button. In the final part, I'll share what has brought me the most joy after 65, not because I added more to my life, but because I had the courage to stop holding on to what no longer served me and opened the door to a whole new chapter. Final thoughts. True happiness began when I finally let go. If you asked me, after all the things you stopped doing, what mattered most, I wouldn't say I had more free time. I wouldn't say I became healthier or more independent. I'd say this: I finally felt like I was living as my true self. For so many years, I kept adding things to my life: more responsibilities, more expectations, more worry, more tasks to check off each day. But only when I grew older and tired enough did I realize it wasn't that I was missing something. It was that I was carrying far too many things I didn't need. When I stopped trying to please everyone, I learned how to be kind to myself. When I stopped worrying about what others thought, I finally found my genuine smile again. When I stopped holding on to everything, just in case I made room to actually live in the present. When I stopped blaming myself for the past, I discovered forgiveness and healing. And when I stopped believing it's too late, I opened the door to a new part of life I once thought I'd missed forever. People often ask, how can I live a happy life after 65? I don't have all the answers. But for me, this journey didn't begin by adding more. It began with 5 things I chose to stop. And when you finally let go of what no longer serves you, you don't lose anything. You simply return to the lighter, more honest version of yourself. So today, if there's one thing in your life you could stop doing, what would bring you more freedom, more truth? I hope you'll share it in the comments, because your story just might inspire someone else, the same way you've been listening to mine. And if this journey meant something to you, please hit the follow button. We'll meet again in the stories to come, where growing old is not the end of the road, but the beginning of a softer, truer, and deeply beautiful life.